First, live, local, now on Channel 3 News.
Rallying behind Escambia High School's suspended football coach.
We don't do anything against the rules.
Students and parents showing support as an investigation into recruiting violations unfolds.
New street names in Crestview, the cost of the change for the city and the businesses.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. Well, parents and students are now rallying behind Escambia High School's head football coach. It's after the school district has suspended him with pay.
This comes after the Escambia School District launched an investigation into the school's football program. The district suspended Coach Willie Spears today while they investigate whether he recruited players from other schools. Spears has denied those accusations, and tonight his supporters are expected to unite at the Myrtle Grove Community Park. Channel 3's Anthony Purr is there and has more about the accusations against Spears.
Bob, Sue, you can see people have started to arrive behind me here, more on their way and more expected to arrive in the next hour. It's not sure if Willie Spears himself will be attending tonight's event, but here's how we got here. Here's what we know so far about this investigation. It's being conducted by the Escambia County School District, not the state. There are 6 players on the team's roster that the district is interested in. They are all transfers. And the question is if Spears had any illegal contact with the students to get them to play for Escambia High School. Now we know that Spears was ordered not to play the 6 transfers on Saturday's game, but Spears still did. We're also learning that at least 2 other schools in the district didn't play their transfers this week. Now, Spears spoke to Channel 3 Sports Director Dan Shugart yesterday about the allegations against him. Spears says he spoke with players before they transferred to Escambia High, but says he did not recruit them.
The definition of recruiting is enticing someone to leave their current school to come to your school. What they're saying we're doing is I wasn't allowed to talk to him because he was enrolled at another school. I didn't know that. I knew I wasn't allowed to recruit him or convince him, but kids come to me all the time.
Now, the Florida High School Athletic Association says they are not investigating Spears and his transfers, but they are looking into it. They're waiting for the results of the school district's findings. And now here's a live look again of the people that's arrived here for this rally so far. We will bring you more on this rally on later editions of Channel 3 News and WEARTV.com. For now, we're reporting live in Escambia County. Anthony Purra, Channel 3 News.
Street signs in Crestview are not only getting a new look, but pre-directional names are being done away with, like Main Street North versus North Main Street. You'll see more when Amber explains it, so the city can comply with federal and state standards. Channel 3's Amber Southern has more on how this might affect address and GPS locations as well.
Crestview mini street signs have the direction before the street name, like North Main Street. But new regulations will change that. Crestview city officials are trying to bring city signs to compliance. In 2003, the Federal Highway Administration revised guidelines on road signs, making signs reflective, easier to see at night. Crestview has 90% of their signs already replaced. But now they are trying to comply with the Florida Department of Transportation guidelines by doing away with pre-directional signs, meaning North Main Street would become Main Street North. It's still unclear as to how many street signs will be changed and where. The project could cost $55,000 to complete, but the city has been budgeting $15,000 since 2010 annually.
It's something that's being budgeted under the current millage rate.
Once the signs are redone, some addresses in the city could change.
It affects your property ID, how your property is located within the property appraiser's website in the city, and which affects your billing and a lot of your tax and everything else. We have started. We just hadn't implemented the actual physical changing of these identification, pre or post and the signage and that sort of thing.
New business owner Mia Batson of Tommy Batson Homes says this could be a concern.
Here at my office, I think that would be a disaster at this point because I have business cards made up and I wouldn't want to change that.
This could also affect Google Maps and GPS coordinates.
Yeah, everybody that we know uses GPS, so I'm not saying it's always accurate anyway, but I'm sure that wouldn't help to screw it up a little bit more.
The city has until January of 2018 to change the signs. Reporting in Crestview, Amber Southard, Channel 3 News.
Southwest Airlines is temporarily cutting one of its direct flights to Nashville out of Pensacola. Starting January 1st, the nonstop flight that leaves at 9:50 a.m. will be canceled until March 7th. The afternoon flight to Nashville at 4:50 will still be in service. The airline says the seasonal change is due to a lower demand during January and February. And starting in March, Southwest will add a Saturday-only flight to Chicago. A 2-year-old boy almost drowned in Destin yesterday. Jaden Cartagena remains in critical condition. Now, family members say he was playing at the water's edge, and moments later, he disappeared. He was found floating face down in 2 feet of water. A man from Fort Walton Beach helped bring the child ashore and perform CPR. Jaden was initially transported to Fort Walton Beach Medical Center before being taken by helicopter to Sacred Heart Hospital in Pensacola. Again, he is listed in critical condition.
A Milton man injured in a car accident Sunday night is now out of the hospital. He escaped serious injury when his car exploded just after crashing. This is video taken by one of our viewers who lives near the crash site on American Farms Road. The Florida Highway Patrol says about 10 p.m., 35-year-old Christopher Beck was driving around a curve when the car ran off the road, went through a fence, and hit a sign and a tree, then burst into flames. And that's what you're looking at. Beck was taken to Santa Rosa Medical Center, where he was treated and released.
First warning weather, powered by Pensacola State College.
Here's the view from downtown Pensacola. It's a little cloudy out there. It will be mostly cloudy this evening, and then overnight partly cloudy. We saw a couple little pop-ups, some blips on the radar this afternoon. Now we're seeing mainly dry weather. There's a little bit of light rain still around Bay Minette, it looks like. But for Northwest Florida, all dry. Looks pretty good for bands on the beach out at Pensacola Beach at concert starting in just under an hour. Mid-70s overnight, and then tomorrow, beaches, the highs there will be in the upper 80s, otherwise about 90, 91, maybe even some mid-90s for some of the inland areas. Our rain chance tomorrow is around 40%, so we could see a pop-up thunderstorm. We've got a tropical storm. It's Dolly. It's over the southern Gulf of Mexico, but it is not headed our way. There's the forecast track. Winds on it right now, 45 miles per hour.
Volunteers from the National Disaster Recovery Group World Renew are in Escambia County. They're doing one-on-one interviews with victims of April's flooding. They're trying to gather information. That data will then allow local agencies to try to make their case to FEMA that we still need financial help. Channel 3's Christina Leavenworth has more.
This group is really interesting. They come from all over the country and they focus on long-term recovery. They'll meet with anyone with unmet needs and hear their story. They hear stories of frustration, loss, and anguish.
I had severe flooding through the walls and outside it was flooding some. Damaged my walls to the point where I have no walls in my living room and kitchen.
Tony Cook lost his home back in April. The immediate response was great, but wasn't enough to fix his house.
FEMA's only the beginning, you know, just giving you money doesn't get the projects done.
Brace, the Be Ready Alliance coordinating for emergencies, says there are far more stories just like his. They estimate there are about 2,000 people who have unmet needs.
There's a lot of people that fall between the cracks. We interview the people that have unmet needs, those that might not have had enough insurance or that didn't qualify for FEMA or for SBA, and we interview them and we take down all their information, and it goes into a database of the long-term recovery.
The members of World Renew perform free research. They find out what needs haven't been met in our community, and that information goes to long-term recovery groups like Brace, and they will use it to try and apply for additional funds from FEMA. It won't happen overnight, but the hope is eventually it will end up helping people just like Tony Cook. They have 3 walk-in locations open from September 2nd through the 12th. And you can find those walk-in locations by calling 850-292-8024 or go to WEARTV.com and click on news links. Reporting in Pensacola, Christina Leavenworth, Channel 3 News.
Bouncing back from last year's cancellation, vendors preparing for the Destin Seafood Festival.
And take Channel 3 News with you anywhere, anytime. Owl will send you severe weather alerts right to your cell phone. Just sign up at WEARTV.com.
Well, last year, the threat of tropical weather forced a cancellation of the Destin Seafood Festival.
No one like that. Channel 3's Laura Hussey spoke to organizers who say the event will be back in October and bigger than ever.
Fall is not the busiest time on Destin Harbor. Look at these concessions. They're not even open on a weekday. That's why the Destin Seafood Festival and the visitors it brings are so important. This is what the festival is supposed to look like. Tons of seafood, arts and crafts stretching almost a mile along the harbor boardwalk. This is what it looked like last year when the threat of Tropical Storm Karen stopped the festival cold.
The bullseye was on us. The insurance company and the tent company were both shaking their heads.
Cindy Combs at the restaurant A Lot of Patatas says the weather cancellation capped an already frustrating summer for businesses.
There was a lot of rain. Down here we say it rained twice, June and July. And then all of a sudden the little storm blew in and just washed our seafood festival away.
Captain Mike Eller from the festival committee says vendors were given half their money back even though their contracts did not require refunds for bad weather.
Most of them didn't want their refund. Most of them said we would rather you keep our money for next year and have us in next year's festival. But we didn't do that. We refunded everybody, half of everybody's money.
He says plans are on track now for the biggest festival ever. They have applications from more vendors than they have room for. The Tourist Development Council has approved $20,000 for pre-event marketing, as they do with several large events.
The end of August and basically the whole month of September really slowed down for us down here. And the Seafood Festival kind of kicks off the fishing rodeo and gets us back in the groove.
The Destin Seafood Festival is a project of the Destin Charter Boat Association. It runs October 3rd through 5th. In Destin, Laura Hussey, Channel 3 News.
Now, we just need to have... What?
You kind of pounced on him, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, we need some good weather, yeah.
So,
if I remember correctly, too, last year, the weather didn't end up being that bad, but they have to make a call on that. So, so far, looking pretty good. And we've got Dolly, our tropical system. It's way down there, not headed our way, so we'll take a look at that, as well as the local rain chances when we come back.
Channel 3 News First Warning Weather Net is brought to you by Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Here is Chief Meteorologist Alan Strum.
Certainly looks like that here with our 7-day outlook showing the hot weather, humid conditions, and a chance for those thunderstorms basically every single day through the week, through the weekend, and into the early part of next week.
Channel 3 Sports is brought to you by Jocko's Bayfront Bar and Grill at the foot of Palafox. Here is Sports Director Dan Shugart.
Well, a lot of college football teams had so-so performances in their opening games. It was not unexpected. It's an opener. Not Florida. The Gators were nearly perfect for 10 seconds. A long kickoff return, then a Florida thunderstorm, and let's call the whole thing off, which is what they did. There is still no word if the Gators and Idaho Vandals will try to reschedule that game. They both have an open date October 25th, but that's the week before the Florida-Georgia game. I'm not sure the Gators want to play then. More significantly, the Gators lost a cupcake dress rehearsal. They get another one with Eastern Michigan this weekend, and really, who can stomach 2 cupcakes anyway? But the Gators were anxious to test their progress on offense Saturday, and they still are.
Well, obviously, we were prepared for Idaho, but whoever our opponent would have been, we would have had the same game preparations for them. They say you make your best improvements from game 1 to game 2, so we'll still have one game before we get into our SEC schedule, but no matter how your schedule lines up, you got to be ready to go, and there's no excuses.
And for the record, Bob Solarski says he will gladly stomach 2 cupcakes. Florida State number 1 with 46 first place votes, followed by Alabama, Oregon, Oklahoma, and Auburn moves up 1 spot. Georgia jumps 6 to number 6 after their impressive win over Clemson. And Michigan State, Ohio State, Texas A&M rockets up 12 spots, and then Baylor's at number 10. LSU and Ole Miss moving up. K-State has Iowa State, then they have 12 days to prepare for Auburn. The Carolinas are tied for 21st, heading in different directions. In fact, the big loser in the poll is the state of South Carolina. The Gamecocks and Clemson tumble a combined 19 spots in this week's poll. Now, Louisville got into the poll, thumping Miami last night. Bobby Petrino's ACC debut. They fell behind Miami, but only briefly. It was 10-7 when Louisville's Corbin Lamb ripped off a 97-yard kickoff return to put the Cardinals on top, 14-10. And they seem to be pretty much in control, both offensively and defensively, the rest of the way. There's Demetrius Brown touchdown run. 31-13, Louisville knocked off Miami last night. Michael Sam may have found another chance in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys are reportedly bringing him in for a physical and possible tryout. Sam, the first openly gay player on an NFL roster, was drafted then cut by the St. Louis Rams. UWF soccer teams begin their schedules this week. The women travel to Columbus State to play Lincoln Memorial and Columbus State this weekend. The Lady Argos reached the national championship game last year, 1 year after winning the national title. But a string of National Players of the Year are gone now. They have more questions than in recent years going into the season, but they still have talent on hand. It's just a bit younger and unproven.
It's going to be a lot different this year because, again, we're relying on just a few returners, the Kelly Andres, the Taylor Harbisons of the world to step up. They're on the defensive side, so it's going to take a collective effort for us to get goals this year. So it's going to be goals and a success by committee this year instead of just one or two players standing out.
And the season begins Friday.
Thank you, Dan.
We'll be right back.
Our next newscast is tonight at 9 on WFGX. Here's Lena with a preview of what we're working on.
If you've received a summons through email to appear in court in Santa Rosa County, it may not be what it says it is. Details coming up on News at 9 on WFGX.
Well, tonight we'll have an update on your forecast. Here's a look at Dolly, not headed this way. You can see where the tropical storm is going toward Mexico. It's down there causing some high seas around the Bay of Campeche. Winds right now on it are at 45 miles per hour. So that's what's happening in the tropics. Otherwise, it's pretty quiet. We'll watch those waves coming off the tropical Atlantic area off the coast of Africa. And as you look at our forecast here, we're really around 30%, maybe 40% every day for a pop-up shower or a thunderstorm out there. So it'll be a mix of sun and clouds. You know, typically we start out with a little bit of sunshine. The clouds start to roll in during the afternoon hours. And that's the way it's looking through the weekend and into the early part of next week. We're still in summer and the temperatures are still looking hot out there.
That's all of our time for now. We thank you for joining us.
Hope you can join us again tonight at 10. Good night.